Well, hello model car fans. Welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. My name is Ralph, and here I am working on my 65 AFX Ultra Wheelbase Golden Commando satellite here. And I showed this kit and its contents, intending to build it, so I wanted to show you what was in the kit before I got going on it. But moving along here and enjoying this kit and getting a lot of things done. And first I started some of the pre-assembly, got the front piece and rear piece on, and just lightly sanded and fitted. Drilled the holes that I am going to be using for like the parachute here, and the trunk pins and the hood pins, and just some of that stuff. And I got a layer of primer on it and sanded it, scuffed it really nice, and I touched it up right here a little bit. But this thing's pretty much ready for paint. Really nice body. Really didn't need hardly anything for cleanup work. One thing I did have to do though, like I put all the holes in the hood, and I'm using this hood because I want to use the cross ram Hemi, and then drilled the holes for the scoop so the scoop fits. Everything's kind of snug, and then those are for the hood pins. But as I found out with this hood, it literally snapped in place. I mean, it was in it just a real tight interference fit. Didn't take a whole lot of effort, but it popped into place. But it was just a little too tight, and that was without any paint. And when I paint, so I sanded and increased the gaps here and got it fitting where it pretty much falls on and off, and but sits in there snugly. Because when I paint, I like to use the Real Automotive Clear, and that can be just a tad thick. So if that's really tight, my hood won't fit later on, or it sticks and chips the paint. So I increased the gaps a bit there, so I can move the hood side to side and front to back. And it pretty much just falls into place. But that's because of my painting style and how the clear coat I use and everything. So I did more work fitting the hood, sanding the sides and fitting the hood, than I did the whole body. Just got a couple areas the primer showed me that I need to clean up. So I'll clean those areas up and get paint on it. I've got the white on order, so that's coming. And for those who weren't following along, I am planning on building the early version mule car. Oh, just tearing the instructions. I'm going to build that car right there with the red interior, and I just tore those, so I'll just tape that up, but it's just because it's folded right there. So I'm getting some things pre-assembled. Got the chassis assembled with the engine compartment, glued all those pieces together. There's like 5 pieces here. So that's mocked up and ready to go. And this is the rear tub for the interior. This is going to get painted red. And then the floor painted red. Got the wheels primed, so the wheels are primed. Seats are glued together and pretty much getting ready for paint. So maybe I'll get some red on it today, we'll see. And then of course just cleaning up the dash and the interior door panels. So I got them all out. And then the Hemi. Got the Hemi painted and assembled, pre-assembled. I left the oil pan off. Got the automatic tranny, of course, and it's ready to go. But I painted the race pan that's in the kit, so I painted this and ready to go. And I'm not really sure which way it goes, because it seems to fit both. The pan fits both ways, and in the picture they've got the pan that way with the sump facing towards the back, which is how I think it's going to build. But I had somebody else tell me that they had to have the pan facing forward, not back. So I left it off on purpose just to see where it goes, because I haven't built this kit before, but just getting that ready to go. So I got some detail painting to do. I've got some black to do. We got some primer, some orange to do. And also, here's the 8 3/4 rear end that is actually in the Revell Hemi Dart kit, because that kit comes with 2 rear ends, the 8 3/4 rear end and the Dana 60. If you build it as the Hemi Dart, you use the Dana 60, but this is the leftover rear end 8 3/4. So I plan to use this in this car, as Dana 60s really weren't around in 65, but a lot of these cars got the Dana 60s in it. So I was trying to read on that and find out what was going on. But by dates, technically in 65, the Dana 60 wasn't available yet. That came out in 66. But a lot of these cars were updated. They may have gotten them early. no definitive answer on what's correct for this, because again, it's racing, it's point in time stuff. So how it was at one car, at one race is one way, and a later race is a different way. So I think this one being the mule car that I'm planning to build, and this is my theory, because it's the early version and I'm going with the cross ram Hemi without the injection, I'm going to put the 8 3/4 in it and build it that way, as if that's what was available early 65. And so I'm just going to build it that way, and not really, stressing correctness or anything. It's just like my history, but I'm going to use this rear end and I'm going to go that way with it. But when I build the Golden Commandos one, this one with the gold paint scheme, or not really sure what color that actually is, but I'll paint that paint scheme in that car as a later car with the tall injection, and I'll leave the Dana 60 in it for that, because the restored car, or the car that exists, has a Dana in it. But I'm not going to stress it too much and continue on with that. And I'm going to paint the entire chassis white, and just kind of the over restored look, but that's how I kind of understand these cars were. They did all of the modifications and then they painted the whole car white, inside out, upside down. They didn't stress too much on this. They just did it. They just shot the whole thing white. So that's how I'm going to do it. I kind of doubt that they actually painted on this. I know a lot of the later cars, a lot of the race shops, when they did all their mods to the chassis, I had read that those guys, they like to black everything out so that you couldn't see what they modified or not. So the entire chassis would be just blacked out, rattle can or whatever, just to kind of hide the work that they've done, so you didn't see fresh paint areas and dull paint areas. And then also got the roll cage just fitted and glued, just mocked it up in place, which is kind of nice. With this piece being out, you can kind of put it in place and then dab the Tamiya glue and let it glue itself in place, and then it's ready for paint. But it looks like this car, the roll cage is white and the interior is red. So that's pretty much how I'm going to paint it, but I'm going to keep doing it, and I'm going to build it just like this. So got a lot of work to do, and I'm going to do some more to this and add to this video. Well, I've come to a little plan here on how I'm going to do this. I started working on the 8 3/4 rear end here. So this is off of the Dart. I put it together, and then cut the leaf springs off and sanded them off. But I decided I'm going to, see this one? It's got these notches in here. So I'm just going to cut it right here and remove it, but try and keep these brackets and leaf springs here, so that all I got to do is basically route out here and lay this rear end in there and have it butt up against the sides. So to do that, I'm going to have to narrow this a little bit, but I've sanded everything off to keep the width as possible, even though it's not quite as wide. It's pretty close, but not quite as wide as this rear end. But I only need to go from these mounting points in. So that's my plan here. And I'm going to remove the drive shaft and save the drive shaft. But so I'm going to cut it here and start to grind the tubes out and leave that bracket there as much as possible. And then when I glue it, I'll put the leaf springs in here, get them mocked up so that the spacing is alright, and all I got to do is center this in and glue it in there. And of course make sure I have it this way, because that's actually the bottom, and get it in there. So that's my plan, and I'm going to start cutting this up, but I figured I would show you before I get a little too far ahead of myself on where I am and how I got to this point. And then I'll start removing this and we'll see how they go, and I'll show you how the results are on that and if my plan works. Alright, here's the results. Of course, here's the Dana as I cut it out. So I'm still going to take the drive shaft off here, but wasn't worried about that just at the moment. But so here's what I was talking about grinding it. You see how I left a little pocket there for the axle to rest into and sit up against? So that's my plan, and it actually is working out pretty good. So I sanded this all smooth, got it all ready, and got both of these ground out. As you can see, just little pockets. And then I'll glue it all together, and then I use this to grind it. This is just one of the bits, and you got to go slow because it melts the plastic, and you got to trim it a little bit, but I was using this to grind it away, and it did a really nice job, but real steady hands and being very careful, and you know, because you slip and catch the spring or anything like that, or even your finger. You don't want that to happen, but got it all pretty much how I wanted it. So now it's just a matter of gluing it in place, and it's kind of hard to mock this up, especially with the the camera in between me and the model here. This gives you an idea of how it's going to go, and then I'll get it all mocked up. Alright, so there we go, holding it in place with my fingers. There it is. Now I'll have to glue it, of course, but pretty happy with the way it's mocking up. And then I'll add the drive shaft, but we'll get this glued in place permanently as far as the leaf springs to the axle tube. Make it one solid piece again, so you can see it right there. So it's working out pretty well. Just got to make sure once I glue it that these axles stay level so that the tires are level. But should be pretty good. Just kind of hard to show this to you while I'm doing it here in between the camera and me. But check it out. That's pretty happy with that, so I'll continue moving on forward and I'll show you where that goes. Well, here's how it came out. Really happy with it. Almost looks like I didn't do anything. Still got a little bit of cleanup to do, but she's looking really good and fits like it's supposed to. So there goes that. So, still got to remove the drive shaft part of it, but don't have the engine in or any of that stuff to get the length figured out just yet, so not too worried about this particular part at the moment. But we'll continue on and work on with this one. Okay, well, not quite as far as I was hoping I would have gotten on this project at this point in time. The videos will continue, but kind of a stopping point at this one. But I did get some primer on a couple more parts here, and I was hoping to get some white on parts of this and even get the red on the interior parts, because I really wanted to get that going as well, you know, to finish the axle. But my paint did come in, so here's the Plymouth white for it, and this is base coat. So my order from Scale Finishes has shown up, so my paint is here along with the replacement paint for the 60 Corvette project that I'm repainting as well. So because of that, and you know, me jumping around here and not being able to focus, because man, I really am having a lot of fun playing with my model kits, but I'm having a hard time focusing on the ones I want to get done for this channel. But I'm playing around. You know, I'm supposed to have painted this red, but instead painted the Porsche top of the engine part red, and the only other part of the Porsche that's red. So I sprayed those while I was at it, but while I had the primer out, I shot a coat of primer on the 60 Corvette, because there's some areas on that I wanted to redo some work on it. And I also, the Porsche I was playing with that I really shouldn't be playing with, I shot primer on that as well. So there was 3 cars that were getting primer besides just this roll cage and this. So got some primer on some projects, and those will eventually make it to the channel. But right now, you know, this is as far as I got on the 65 Satellite. And I'm going to continue on it, of course, and you know, got a whole nother weekend of modeling planned and some things to do. But just wanted to share where I'm at and close this video out by saying thank you for tuning in, subscribing, and all your comments. I really appreciate it. And you'll be seeing this one here real soon. Next steps for me is painting this white and then the floor red to match the interior. So I got a possible how-to video that might be coming up on some tips and tricks on that. And I've touched on it before, but now that I've got to do it to this one and that one, I think I got another how-to video coming up in the works, so may see that in the next month. So thank you, and you guys, you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next Saturday.